All right, welcome everybody to this installment of the movie show where we're going to review and fight about It Follows.
Now you know movies.
Yes.
Episode something.
We're going to start off with a couple minutes of no spoilers, so don't worry. But then we're going to put up the spoiler alert sign, and then all bets are off.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let's just go around real quickly. Would you recommend to a friend that they see It Follows?
You want to start, Bobby?
I'll start over here.
Yeah.
My recommendation is no.
Oh.
Ooh, just a flat
Oh,
no.
straight out
Shots
no,
fired.
right away.
I'm sorry. I can't get into it yet. But right now, my recommendation will be other things.
Other things.
Yes, I would not.
Is that
Personally,
the,
though, I
is
don't
that the
like
sequel to Stranger Things?
Yeah. Personally, though, I don't like horror movies, so that
Okay.
just might be my biased opinion.
Sure.
But
Okay.
I'm gonna have to say no. What about you, Brent?
All right. I'm gonna come down as a soft no on this one myself. Also, I think there's some merit to this movie, but for me, it suffered a really hard case of the overhypedness. I heard for years that this was the best horror movie ever, and that you need to see it. And I was left a little cold at the end, so I'll say soft no, but we'll get more into it afterwards.
Yeah, I'd go soft no too. The premise is really good, and I liked that it wasn't your typical horror movie. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Even.
I put on a yes. Wait,
Oh,
are we
there
on
we
this
go.
couch for a reason?
See,
No. You would know too. Am I the only yes?
we
What is
need
this?
the controversy.
Absolutely.
This is an
intervention.
Dang.
Steve, listen.
All right. Yeah, no.
I brought
I
you here to sandbag you.
I put absolutely on that one.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
I'm liking it. We're gonna have a good discussion in a minute.
Yes.
I want to preface my thing by saying, like,
Oh boy.
I'm not like a huge horror aficionado.
Okay.
Like, I haven't seen too many horror movies, so maybe in the grand scheme of horror movies, this would be a good movie. Horror movie.
I'm hearing a lot of caveats here.
But I don't really.
Asterisk.
Yeah, asterisk. I don't think I'd recommend it.
Okay.
All right, so what you're seeing right here is the average of our votes, so that you can decide whether you want to go watch this tonight.
Okay, there.
Alright.
I'm seeing it.
Okay. Now for the spoiler alert. So all bets are off. If you haven't seen the film,
Spoil,
go
spoil.
watch it first, and
Spoil.
then come back. All right.
Can't
So I'm
wait to
gonna
see
I'm gonna
some.
throw out some points to you guys,
Okay.
and I just feel free to just jump in.
Yeah.
So It Follows
Yep.
has a soundtrack by Disaster Piece, and I wasn't a big fan of the soundtrack. In fact, there were parts of the soundtrack where I thought it was just a sync, as like a temp track.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you guys feeling about? Because a lot of people love the soundtrack.
It's interesting. I kind of agree with you that the soundtrack didn't work for me as much. I wonder if part of that is, obviously this movie came out 2014, and since then we've seen things like Stranger Things that kind of do a similar kind of throwback style, throwback music and stuff. And I wonder if maybe because I feel like that did it better, that kind of like tainted my viewing of this, where like I was kind of like, I feel like this is the Stranger Things thing, but not as good.
Being I've never seen Stranger Things.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just
wow.
throwing
Alright.
that out there.
That's a
Alright.
good one.
And been told by many that that's my childhood. I should.
Mhm.
So, no, I liked the soundtrack. I thought
Okay.
that staticness that it had. I mean, it's that washed out
affecting.
nostalgia, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's got that buzz, incessant buzz to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's other things out there that are better. Trent
Sure.
Reznor does a lot of great stuff, but no, I'm not crazy about it. But I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely moments in the movie where it's affecting. There's just also times where I found it distracting too,
Right.
where it didn't enhance the movie as much as kind of like there's too many synths going on here. Let's calm it down a little bit.
At a couple points, I really got pulled out of it. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, you chose that sound. That volume? Really?
I tried to sort of
Oh, what is she getting
understand-
attacked by a monster? I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah, like I sort of saw what they were trying to go for,
Yep.
and I could appreciate that, like the sort of 80s retro synth kind of thing, but it didn't really come across as what I, would relate to being nostalgic. Maybe it wasn't set for like my age group.
You're too young.
That's what I'm thinking, because I didn't really feel like it really made me feel nostalgic.
So going to that point, there's an absence in the movie of time and space, right? So when you're watching the film, there's many things that don't quite make sense if you're trying to fit it into a particular time period. Like,
Right.
let's talk about like cell phones.
Right.
Just-
Shell
Just this
phones.
Just a
cool
shell phone.
Shell phone. It sort of definitely gives this sort of somewhere between the 70s, 80s, 90s, or 2000s feel to it. A lot of the cars that they're in are
Even 50s.
yeah, I mean,
all the movies that are playing in the background are like 50s.
Well, the opening
movies.
scene,
That's
she's in a
using a
newer
tube
vehicle
TV.
and has a Nokia.
Right.
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
true. But I mean, like, having a Nokia was such a small sliver of time.
Yes.
Then to also have someone with a weird futuristic touchscreen
Or like
No,
the
it's just
organist that was at the
yeah.
movie theater.
Right.
I mean, all these kind of
mean,
like strange all over the place elements.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of. They definitely chose that.
Yeah,
That wasn't
the
by
director.
accident.
I mean, the director. The reason he wanted to do that, I don't know if you guys read the same article as I did, but he said that he wanted to make it feel like sort of a dream state where things are kind of like intertwine, and there isn't really a linear sense of time, but like sort of just this own universe where all levels of time exist on the same plane.
Okay.
And he wanted it to sort of, the way the director put it was he wanted it to feel like a dream. So, because it was actually a dream he had had when he was a kid, and it was a reoccurring dream. And we all have those nightmares, you know, the recurring nightmares.
So I think.
We've all had them since childhood.
We've all
Well,
had
then, I mean,
follows.
Yeah.
to sort of bounce that point,
Yeah.
you know, when you have a dream, it's vivid,
Mhm.
and then you try to describe it to someone, they're like, "What are you talking about?" Like that A doesn't make any sense. B, you've forgotten half of it, and C, it just wasn't. That wasn't a very good story. You know, your weird dream about you having to file your taxes, but you're wearing your underwear. Like it's just not
When
like
you experienced the
yeah.
dream.
I mean, like I do appreciate.
I feel like you just summed up the movie right there.
It's like it just felt muddled. It just felt like, you know, you can pick an art style, you can pick a time period, and then do it very well. And that's some movies do that. Like some, basically, that's their whole point. Like
Yeah.
you know, of it just being like, wow, this looks like the 1890s, or this looks like the 1920s, or this looks like the
But that's
1960s.
the art of horror. It disorients you on purpose. I haven't read any of the articles that Bobby's reading, but the whole point is you're supposed to be confused. That level of uncertainty is supposed to be a very unwavering
That's true, and I
bar.
feel like it's something that I can't appreciate because I don't watch a lot of horror. Or of
See, that's
this, of
interesting
this
because
same
I thought
brand.
that was the thing I appreciated the most out of this movie was the fact that it was so different and disorienting. That was one thing I could really take away from it that I liked was this director was willing to kind of go over the line to make it a universe that we're not familiar with, which I thought was cool. That was actually what I was going to say, one of my favorite things about the movie.
Well, it's familiar, but not exactly.
But not exactly, like a dream.
To me, one of the scariest points of the film, the point that I liked the most, was that they're at the lake, and we, the audience, see that it's her. Is it a friend or
Yara.
her sister?
Yeah, the friend Yara.
Is
Yep.
walking
Yeah.
behind her, so you see that, you don't think anything of it. Next scene, you cut to the water, and you see that Yara's in the water. So now
Right.
you're like, I know something you don't.
Yes.
And then you're like, oh, something's going to happen. And that is awesome. I love that
Yes.
feeling.
You could
That
never
was
tell
the
when it
only
was
time in the movie that I can remember that kind of happened, where we as the audience knew something was going to happen and we could get this
Yeah.
horror excitement about it. Pretty much all the rest, she knew about it ahead of time. Like when the old woman's walking on the campus, she sees the old woman. She's
Yeah.
aware of it. So like we're just there to.
Plus, you got an old woman walking around in like a little like hospital gown.
Right.
You can kind of probably assume that she's the It Follows, right?
Right.
If you're like, I think I'm okay. I'm just gonna hang out here by my locker while the old lady in the hospital gown keeps walking towards me. I think that's fine.
Or the
I'm not
scene
gonna
when
worry
Zach
about that.
Mack walked through the door. Remember that?
Right. Our missing giant.
Yeah,
yes.
Missing Giant. I thought that it was kind of. They had this really cool opportunity to when Hugh, I think his name was, the guy who she sleeps with in the beginning.
Yes.
Right.
He says like, "Oh, it can look like anyone you know," and they only did that once with Yara.
Well, she saw
And
her father.
Yeah.
at the end of the pool scene.
Oh,
And
That's
the
her
little
father.
and the
Right.
little boy.
Now I have a
the little
cool-
boy.
The little boy is
Yep.
the little boy who voyeurs her.
Yeah.
in the
Didn't
beginning of the movie.
The
No,
mother.
everyone says the prostitute. There's or which one? There's the peeing prostitute. Was that from the porno mags?
I
that-
starred as the peeing
that-
prostitute.
Was
big
that
break.
not a prostitute, but rather a porno person
Oh.
from the magazine?
Yes.
That
Good
they
catch,
were
Jesse.
talking about. That
Okay,
I think you're
yeah.
all- They were like, remember when we saw the magazines? And
Yeah,
we
yeah,
had no
yeah,
idea
yeah,
what
yeah,
the
yeah.
hell was going on, and like they were really
Yes.
freaky and crazy. Could that have been from that?
Yes, I
I think
think, you're right.
I think
Now,
it's
Jesse have been fighting about this. Okay. The question is the way that you pass on it, I think, is that it's consensual, and it has to be that there is deception. In all the cases in the movie that I can think of where we know it's been passed on for sure was consensual. There's no rape involved or anything like that, and it was deception. You don't know what's going on until after it's happened. Is that Now, the one case where I thought this wasn't true, but Jesse proved me right,
With
was Greg.
Greg, that's what I was
Greg
just
does
about to
not
say at the
believe in
hospital.
the creature, even
Right.
though he should.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it happened at his lake house and everything, he does not believe it.
So he was deceived.
So he was deceived when he had sex with
Yeah,
her.
but what about the guy at the end? Her friend. Friend zone.
At the end, we don't know if they're being followed. We see someone in
True.
the.
You assume it.
We assume
True.
it could be someone
Right.
just. It could just be someone walking.
But we don't have any proof. It would be interesting if in the movie she had slept with someone else that she really liked, maybe, and then
Right.
it didn't follow him
But-
or something, or that he knew. Like, I mean, if she had slept with Paul early in the movie and it still followed her, then we could make that assessment.
Well, we also don't know who it's following. If that is it behind the two of them.
Well, right,
Right.
of
Could be
course.
following
That's
her
why
still.
we don't
Right.
know.
There's also that
And that's why
theory
we're-
desire, though.
Yeah.
But that's why we can't make a call on that.
Mm-hmm.
You think that we can somehow make a call because it's happened every single time, but it's happened every single time. You can't prove it if you can't prove it wrong. in
But I'm
any
just saying. I
case,
think
then-
I'm hoping that the director made this as a social commentary about it being some kind of demon that we create when we do that to another person. When we don't make love with that person out of love, we deceive that other person and we pass it on that way.
Okay, but I just want to focus on the characters for a minute here.
Yeah.
They don't have. First of all, she does not communicate effectively as. None of them really.
So you would
communicate
like in a
effectively.
horror movie?
She's very internalized.
Okay, when they're
a new genre for Jesse. It is the intelligent horror movie.
listen, it exists now.
Yeah,
Get
she-
Out.
Get Out did a really good
Get
job
Out
at
is
that.
I
the
haven't
best
seen it yet.
intelligent-
Really good.
I
We
have
should
another
watch it.
one.
But
okay,
anyway.
but
Yeah.
so when they're in the pool, they're expecting the creature to come into
Yes.
the pool.
Yes.
They're waiting for it.
Mhm.
Then it comes into the pool. She immediately loses her mind.
Well, as any
Listen,
teenager would.
if you gotta have a plan, you gotta stick to it. Communicate. She's just like, it's over there. It's out, and then he's
And,
like,
like, they don't
point
know where it
directly at
is.
like.
And then the guy shoots the friend in the leg.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, you gotta check your crossfire.
But they're also adolescent. Like, they're not smart.
Right.
teenagers.
True.
It's realistic.
True.
it's not. But
Would-
You're a little
Would you-
nerd. Like, you're above that. And that's fine. So am I. Like,
It's fun to watch people doing what they would really do, which is freak out and do all.
you gotta
know.
understand too, the type
Yeah.
of people who would be getting in these situations are the type of people who maybe are going around like
What are you trying to say,
making.
Bobby?
You know what I'm trying to
Oh,
say.
no, what are you
Some-
saying?
some social
What-
commentary.
where- where are
Harsh
you going with that?
judgments
Hey,
there.
hey.
Harsh judgments
Hey,
coming from
you know
Bobby.
what?
Yikes.
I'm not judging. I'm judging the characters in the movie. They're not real. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, like they just seem like this girl like totally
Okay.
falls for this guy who's fake and he made up this whole story and he ends up not even being a real dude. So clearly she didn't do enough of a background check. He doesn't live anywhere.
I hear you.
So maybe
but,
she's not the smartest person.
But I want to care about characters in a movie. And
I
there are
agree.
movies.
I
There
agree.
are movies where the character is stupid and
Yeah.
you care about them. Forrest Gump, you care about him because he has other good qualities. It's not just intelligence. He's nice.
Well,
he
Hugh
cares
is
about
nice.
people.
Hugh is nice. He scares her so that she will do the right thing to get the demon off of her.
Yeah, Hugh
Yeah,
is
but he
actually
doesn't-
the only competent character
yeah,
in
but
the
he
entire
just
movie
doesn't
because
want the
he has
demon
a
to
plan.
kill her so that it can kill him right after. He
Right.
just wants to make
But
sure she
At
passes
least
it along.
he's competent.
Right.
At least he has a plan.
I cared about him.
It made sense. If she knows, she's gonna last longer
Now, here's
than
a question.
like the guys on the boat.
Will it go all the way back to the beginning, or do you think the first person is dead? Like, when did this start?
Yeah, exactly. Where
There's-
did this begin?
Yeah.
That's
Chicken and
mathematical,
eggs.
I think.
Hmm.
Depends on the age of the people that are having sex. Depends on how long they're gonna live for, their natural lives. It depends on how long they're gonna live for avoiding the
You
monster.
opened a can of worms.
And-
there.
Alright, get the
Yeah.
whiteboard
Yeah,
out.
he's right.
And
It's
it
hard
avoids
not to
how
open
many-
a can of
I know.
worms and talking about this.
And it avoids how fast it spreads.
Right.
So clearly, it spreads faster than
I feel like you
people
could
die.
teach a whole college course on this,
Yes.
like with math. And
We'll start the
everything.
curriculum now. Let's
Because
start
Well,
writing
that's
it
the
up.
cool
just
thing about
saying,
this
like-
movie. There's like it's you have to sort of take it into your own interpretation, and like there's no right and wrong way. So that's sort of I think what the director was probably trying to do was trying to get us to talk about it
Yeah.
and come up with our own ideas and argue about it, which I think was kind of a cool thing.
But I feel like
I agree.
They
though, I
could
didn't like
have
the characters.
done it so much more interestingly. They could have had competent characters still face trouble and
Yeah.
strife with this very same monster. We watched a guy who talked about 4 ways that you could beat the monster. I think it had 2 really good ideas. One would be you travel a lot. You get in your car, you start to leave, you can avoid it. It's
Even
easily
better, you
avoidable.
work between the Rocky Mountains.
It doesn't.
So
I mean,
it takes even longer to walk to you.
It's gonna walk to you. You may as well save gas and be on a flat plane.
You work on one side of the Grand Canyon.
It doesn't matter. It will follow. It will follow you. Just assume that it's a straight line path. It'll walk at the speed of walking.
Right.
Okay.
You just can travel back and forth between your house and your work, and it'll just be constantly following you, turning back around.
I would feel really not at ease.
Of course,
if that was
but
the case.
you got to remember that the monster is not like some amazing like stealth ninja or anything. It just walks.
These are teenagers.
It's not going to catch you.
And she doesn't even believe herself for the first half of the movie. She's not even quite sure what she's seen. It takes quite a bit of like she thinks she's gone mad.
But once you do, you can realize that you can run away from this problem. Yes, you will have to run away from the rest of your life. I mean, you could travel to another continent for a couple months and then travel to another continent. And then you would not run into
the world.
Okay, so that's one way you can travel. What's the other way?
The other way, and this one I thought was brilliant, is just a can of spray paint. So you spray the monster with spray paint, and then people are like, "Oh my God, there's something chasing you that's half visible."
I see a couple problems with both of those. One is that so if you do the travel method,
Yeah.
I think the demon uses other people to find out where you are. There's a scene where she's in Hugh's house, and there's paper all over the windows, and she peers out. And why would the director show us this? There's a guy who walks by and he looks up at the house. He's obviously being used by the demon
Constant
to find her.
voyeurism is a theme of the movie.
And that is why Hugh papered his house, because he figured that out. He's a smart dude. So, therefore, the demon has eyes all around the world to find you. And so I don't think your flying method's going to work that well, because I think that it's going to eventually catch up with you.
Well, it knows where you are, but that doesn't mean that it can catch up with you.
It can obviously change forms, change bodies, so wouldn't it just jump out of that
And it can change
spray-painted
clothes,
body?
too.
Right.
Well,
I mean, it would
okay,
just
even if it could, it never does that in front of anybody.
So you're saying spray paint it in front of a police station?
Yeah, I'm saying you can see it coming. So and all you have to do is just keep a brisk
But
walking
you can't
pace.
kill it. So even if you got some people to believe you and to tackle it or whatever, you can't kill it. Even if you shoot it in the head, it comes back to life. So
Right, but you put it in a cage or something that it can't get out of.
Well, let me ask Steven. So Steven, this is a movie that you recommended to
Yeah.
us, and and lots of people like. You're not the only one.
No.
I mean,
I would say it's actually more universally praised
Yes.
than disliked.
got a really good score on Rotten
it has
Tomatoes.
I think
97% on Rotten Tomatoes.
that is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that is Forrest Gump level.
Yeah.
So we are the oddballs here. So I mean, Steven, what is it that when you saw the movie, because you really talked it up and it affected you, like what?
Yeah, I'm the one that pushed you to get on that.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad I saw
Yeah.
it. So like, what
Yeah.
what is it that caught you about the movie?
So when I watch movies, I do it in one of two ways. I like to be on autopilot. I'm gonna Tesla reference it. It's just-
Branding.
It's being
You
in this
saw it.
room. It's just being in this room. You know, it's like no. It's like I'll get on autopilot and I'll sit and I'll tune out. I'll observe what's in front of me, or I'll be completely analytical, which is usually me when I'm walking down the street. I can't just mosey about in my own way. I have to observe and dissect and look at the details and everything. And this is one of those movies that it was actually nice to be able to put yourself in that you don't have to even put the frame of mind there, but it's always feeding you constant information or hints that where some people are lost in the ideas of details or think that's not enough information. I think the balance of what's given to you and what isn't is harmoniously perfect. That's what I like about it. You know that unwavering ability to. That's grasping a classic horror movie for me. I mean, it's like what I remember growing up with, and then the nostalgic of just the theme itself is something that everybody's relatable to. And when you throw those two things in the mix, it's like, well, crap. You identify with the characters, one, and then you go to that other point where it's like, where am I? And that sense is what I enjoy about it.
Now, Paul's relationship to Jamie. Paul has a childhood relationship with her. He likes her, maybe he loves her, and so that's the relationship. He's just constantly he's watching out for her. He tries to come up with a plan to save her, right? He's willing to take one for the team for her, right?
Yeah.
But he's the only guy in the movie who would have that relationship with her.
Yeah.
All the other guys in the movie are like Hugh and Greg.
Greg, yep.
They are not having a loving relationship with her. So what is that? What is that statement making in the movie about Paul that he is?
I mean, I think he's the most likable character in the movie. I don't know if anyone else agrees.
Yeah, he tries the hardest. That's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely like him most out of everyone else. And I think it's clear that, like, Jay isn't really interested in him. But, like, this is sort of a really grim way of him getting his shot, I guess. And it's kind of messed up, but at the end of the movie, you notice that they're kind of together, and you don't know if it's because they actually feel like they have feelings for each other, or if it's because they just literally feel safe together.
Well, that's a great point. So, is he suffering from deception at the end when they make love, or is Paul truly in love with her? So, is his love
The way they held hands. I mean, also her hand was bandaged up, but I mean, like that was pretty.
Do you feel they were in love at the end?
No.
Oh, you don't?
No, the way that
They're
they
like
were
two lost wolves.
I would like to believe that he's in love with her, and the fact that they're actually making love means that he will not get it, and that might have put an end to it.
Yeah, but
that's one-sided though. That's unrequited in my opinion. I mean, like with Jay.
But I think when they're walking down the street, I got the sense that she liked him.
It's more just falling into being content or comfortable.
Huh,
A level of safe haven.
There's a scene
that attraction's not actually.
I don't know. There's a scene in the hospital.
It's hard to see if it could.
Where her friend is finishing reading The Idiot, which is obviously Paul, right? And she looks at Paul, and I think she sees him differently for the first time. She sees him not as an idiot anymore. She sees him as...
He is the only genuine character in the whole...
Right. Like, I think she's had a flip, then they have sex, and then they're walking down the street, and I think they're now genuinely in love. And I think that they put a suggestive creature behind to make us question, and that's to basically focus on what kind of person we are.
But it's weird because it's like very dark, because it almost feels like it's like forced. Like she was totally forced to feel that way for him. Because it's like when you've got nowhere else to go, what are you going to do? Like Stockholm Syndrome kind of like thing, you know? Not exactly Stockholm Syndrome, but
interesting. That you kind of just like go to where you feel safe and secure as opposed to actually being truly in love with someone.
And maybe that feels like love, but how are you supposed to know if it's real or not? Like would it have happened otherwise if it didn't exist?
To me, that is a valuable part of the movie because if it brings out those kind of points in discussion, like because I didn't even really think of it that way. That
it really plays with those themes really well. That's one of the things I definitely like about this movie. Another thing I really like about it too is just the general idea of the It Follows. I feel like kind of goes so far beyond the movie that I feel like that impact alone of just the idea of that is kind of infiltrated.
I couldn't sleep for like days. I didn't like the movie, but I was looking out the window.
That's the whole point.
Yes,
you just nailed it. And for somebody that soft note and hard noted, it's like I can't understand that because the movie did exactly what it was instructed to do. At no point in the time were you sitting super.
I would say my opinion has gotten better on it over time. There's certain elements of it that kind of like pull me out of it a little bit, but I think the broader themes of the movie and the ideas that it's trying to get across, I think they do a good job. Well, I guess
that's why horror is a difficult genre to rate because it almost like I want to rate it based on whether or not I liked it, not whether or not it did its job. And sort of that's the question, I guess, is like, did it do its job? Yes. Did I like it? No.
I was not afraid of the monster. I was afraid of the characters more in this movie. I was afraid of Jay. I just felt abhorrently opposed to her character, basically to pretty much every other character in the entire film.
They didn't feel human.
They felt very awful.
Right, so that's a social commentary then that that the director might be saying about Americans or people in general.
Thank you.
No,
society as a whole, like that is kind of the scariest part about it. I mean, the disconnect that's there. I mean, going back to the parent thing, it's like the mother's day drinking the entire. I mean, that could be coping with the loss of the husband. But it's they're there, but they're not there. And when I go back to it's weird. It's like you can disambiguate the age groups here between me and you guys, and it's like I go back to my upbringing. I mean, it was very hands off, but that's also because. My father, my grandfather, my parents were just wonderful at really instilling me with so much that it was like, go do your own thing, and they never. There's no helicopter parent that didn't really exist for at least me and my upbringing and the way that I view my perception of the movie is very much similar to that. Only not in a blatant disregard kind of way, just kind of I can identify with that for how they were brought up.
I don't know. I wanted it to be a little bit more believable.
Here's a question about Paul. He, at one point, now has it, we think, because he slept with Jay, and now he's driving past some prostitutes. So his plan, I guess, is to pass it off to prostitutes. Does he sleep with prostitutes, or is it implied that since he's pulling past them that he doesn't?
Yeah, he doesn't have it.
I don't think he did. I feel like the way that they presented his character, no, I don't
wasn't
think he
going to
did.
do it, but he thought about it.
I mean, we don't know, but I think that he didn't.
Again, I think this is to get back to you, the viewer, because it goes to your decision making of what you would do as Paul. There's no way you can determine from that scene whether he does or doesn't. It's enough implied that he might have, and it's enough implied that he didn't.
I think that the thing that frustrated me most about this movie is that there were so many things given to the viewer to decide on. And sometimes it really works, like, for example, like The Leftovers. That show, it does a really good job of that. And I know I shouldn't be comparing movies to shows, but...
What do you mean decide on, though?
Like when they leave unanswered questions, for example, at the end, where it was possibly following them or maybe not, and they're like, well, that's up to the audience to interpret. I sort of like that to an extent, but I feel like it was... The whole movie was like that for me. Like, a lot of things in this movie were like, oh, you can decide, like... what is it? Like, why is it following them?
What is the director trying to say about the demon using our own appliances against us? They brought all of American appliances. The director did this, not me. Brought typewriters, televisions, toasters, right? Line them up along the pool. They're going to be used against the demon, but the demon turns them against her and throws things like irons against her. Right, and televisions against her.
You could be saying that technology can be used for bad and good.
I feel like if the theme of the movie is, or one of the themes is escaping death or running from death, part of that is just the monotony of growing older. And, if you're getting iron and, like, toasters and stuff, this is all kind of, like, everyday, normal, boring, bland life stuff. You have to iron your shirts, you have to make your breakfast in the morning, and all this kind of stuff of, like, and these guys are teenagers, so, like, all these things of growing up and getting older, these are, like, all, like, symbols of that thing literally being chucked at her head. Like,
could it be consumerism, though?
It could be, I guess. Yeah, I guess it could also be that, too. I personally read it more as just because of the types of appliances. We're seeing typewriters or whatever. This all feels very boring old people stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm speaking as someone who, like, literally, has to make his own toast and iron his own shirts now as an adult man.
You don't have to iron your own shirts.
I don't, and I don't. Clearly, I do not do it. But
there was no cool record players being thrown.
Yeah, I know. We weren't looking at like a cool like iPhone or something like stuff. It's all kind of this boring, mundane life stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, like, when I first saw the movie, I was expecting this. Again, it was kind of hyped in my mind, so I was expecting, it was a 97% Rotten Tomatoes. This is gonna blow me away.
Yeah.
And when it didn't, I was just like very depressed, and that's gonna get a low rating. But the more I've been talking about the movie and the fact that I've seen it twice now, I actually see there's much more commentary value to it, not just horror value.
I'm gonna disagree. I'll preface it by saying it's art. There are different forms of art. This kind of art to me is sort of like the paint bucket style of art, where you are just sort of, like
tread lightly.
Yeah, really. No, there was a lot of,
but only because you can interpret it in any way that you want.
I just don't think. I think we found out a lot about you today. I think this show, the subtitle of the show should be that like we found out about what you don't like, open-ended things. You would like it to be much more cut and dry.
No,
I think even Bobby was saying this too.
If it was better, I would be talking all day about this.
But the better means that you would have hard answers.
Abrupt
to
conclusions.
No. Like you would like
I agree with Jesse because there are certain
We
things
should
that I've
need to see
seen.
his
There are certain things I've seen that are open-ended but are still worth watching.
If there were characters that I actually could genuinely care about, I would be talking about all of these different theories.
Okay, but why does that movie have to have likable characters?
Because it's a movie. Because all movies have likable characters. That's the point of the movie. Name me a movie where there is an intentionally unlikable character.
Well, I think this one is a good example.
Well, I mean, we watched Manchester.
Schindler's List.
Manchester by the Sea. We watched.
Manchester by the
I
Sea
loved
is a good
Ray
one.
Fiennes in that movie, and I loved his character. It doesn't mean
I don't mean
was a Nazi.
antagonists. I mean the protagonists of the film.
That was good.
And I don't mean anti-heroes. I mean apathetic, completely you don't care about them.
Paul's character in the movie. Did you like Paul? Why?
Really, because he wasn't. There's nothing there.
He came up with the plan to get the.
No, I
not
agree
a
with
good
Jesse
plan.
on this one. I think he was.
It's not a plan.
I think
It was
all
not.
the characters in this were pretty
All the
bland.
characters
But maybe
were-
that's the point. But just
that
because
is
that's the point.
He believed
Yeah.
her. He believed her. He stuck by her.
Shouldn't have believed her.
He came up. He should believe her.
Not in the beginning.
Why?
You immediately believed her. You
Yeah,
should have.
isn't that a
Because
sign
he
of a great
puts her on a
person?
pedestal, man. He really
He
cares
shouldn't
about
do
her.
that.
Yes,
well,
but
that's
when you love
you can't
someone-
tell somebody who they
Right.
Yeah,
You shouldn't
like,
put people on pedestals that you love.
Wow, we're getting see.
yeah, that's-
we're
it's not that they're bad. They're just undecided.
Right.
I mean,
like
they're
you
in a
said, they're
transitioning
adolescents, they're
period.
young,
It's-
they're 21.
They're dumb kids, and turns out
Yeah.
most of the time we see a bunch of dumb teenagers walking down the street, you're kind of annoyed. You're
Yes,
like, oh, look at these
exactly.
dumb kids. What are they doing?
And I think that that's
and it
totally
turns out
true.
that we were all kind of
They're dumb kids.
But
yeah.
their
people
We're all dumb
lives
kids.
are
Yep.
just as vivid as yours are, whether you see that or not.
Right. The only thing is, I will say, despite that, I still didn't like the movie, but I understand and can appreciate what he was trying to do.
We're gonna go through our ratings here, so we can average out the ratings for you. Start with Jesse there.
I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5 shell phones.
Oh,
Oh, you took my cell
See, I
phone.
told you. No, I knew it.
I was thinking of it.
Cut, I hate you.
We
That's
all
so
like
lame.
all of you?
Nah.
I mean, okay, so I had
Everyone but Brent.
No, I got mine in my head already.
I had
ready
a
to
backup, but I figured you would do cell phones, so I.
I mean, that's definitely a good
It's
one.
the
I'll give you
obvious
that. That's a
choice.
good one,
It
but
is,
I
yeah,
have
it's
one in my
just-
head.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's so
I'm gonna
nice.
pick one that's gonna be really hard for the boys to do.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right, so that's Jesse's rating. All right, I'm gonna give it 3
Okay.
peeing prostitutes.
There you go.
I was thinking
that's,
of that.
That's what I'm talking about.
I was thinking of being
Yeah. Okay. I'll go next then. I'm also gonna give it 3 grossly broken legs because I think overall, like I said, I kind of was in the same boat with everyone where my initial viewing, I was like, I don't know. I mean, this was okay, but is it really like the best horror movie I've ever seen? Probably not. But just the fact that we can sit here and have this much of a conversation about it and all the ideas that kind of come up, the more I think about it and the more it sticks with me, I definitely have to bump it up to at least a 3, I would say. And
Okay.
who knows, maybe a year from now it'll be a 3.5. I don't know. It just kind of keeps growing. I started at
It
2.
follows.
I started at 2,
it-
and it's been following me,
Yeah.
and it's creeping me out. And I'm just like, all right, it's a 3 now, okay? Are you gonna stop following me?
It's gonna
And
keep
probably
going until
not.
it's a 10. It's gonna
Probably
go past
not.
the barriers.
Yeah, no. All right.
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna be Brent a few weeks ago and give it 2 naked men on a roof.
All right. There you go.
I can't wait to see these.
All right. Yeah, I think we're gonna have a lot of interesting graphics.
It'll
for
just
this
be an
one.
all
icon of
blurred.
a man.
This video is not getting monetized.
I couldn't think of anything else, but
I
anyway.
mean, hey, listen, the movie gave you that
All right,
to work
Steven,
with.
did.
top
So.
that.
No, I'm gonna give it 4.5. Unnecessary sweaters in summer.
There you go. I like
Nice.
it. That's a good
Nice.
one. That's a really good one.
We didn't go over that.
No, we didn't.
We
We
didn't.
didn't really talk about the sweaters.
seasons are
Well, there
also
are no seasons.
All right.
That's
I
true.
want to just tell.
I'm gonna read the giant.
Oh
was
yeah,
it
we
the
got
Mysterious Giant?
we got a mysterious rating today, but
Oh, okay,
a little
okay.
bit of a different one.
All right, this is the statement from the Angry Giant.
The
so
Angry Giant,
I'm going to
ooh.
now have Angry Giant voice.
Jeff
Okay.
Manning.
Close. His twin.
Very
We'll pitch it
close.
down.
Yeah. If you saw the trailer to this, you saw the whole movie. The plot has more holes in it than a sinking ship. And it still takes 1 hour and 47 minutes to go down. It felt like it would never end. I almost jumped overboard. The acting was good if you like terrible acting. The writers of this movie thought that if they made a movie about sex and demons, it would sell. Well, congratulations, you made your money. But this Angry Giant wants his 1 hour and 47 minutes back. 1.5 out of
I told you.
Wow.
I knew it was gonna be a 1.5.
Oh,
So wait, that was
Yes.
the Angry Giant.
That was the
person in
Angry
movie?
Giant. Yes, the mysterious Angry Giant.
Me
So
and
he-
Zach
he
have
was
gotten like almost the same review on everything, so
That's
I knew he
harsh.
was
No,
gonna
he's
be
like
1.5.
6'7" too, just like Jeff Manning.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's 6'10".
Oh, 6'10".
He's actually taller, yeah.
Again, I think you should just latch on to someone here that you feel closest to and just follow them for
You
their
should have your
ratings.
own opinions. Don't listen to
No,
him.
no freedom. There's no freedom.
Up on the Bobby train. I like things
alright.
that are good, and that's it.
Thanks for watching, Zach, Steve, and 3 Pauls.
Thank you for watching. Comment below if you thought that any of us are full of crap, and we'll see you next
there's
time.
a strong possibility.
Smoke star.